So find rocks, find weeds, shallow. The fish move shallow and the bite gets better.
Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be hopping in the boat with Brian Brosdahl and we're going to be chasing down some summertime walleyes with a jig and a plastic. Now before we get into the nitty-gritties of some of the tactical info that we're going to cover in this video, we're going to take a look at Bro's screen and he's going to share what he's looking for this time of year when he's searching for walleyes.
You'll see I'm looking for rocks, and I found some rocks here. I marked them with an icon here. And so if I get rock clusters, I like to mark them. So this is kind of the beginning of the spot here. And there's a mix of rocks and gravel here. And so I'll mark the beginning and the end of the spot. But I want to know how big the spot is. So I might put two icons down. Sometimes I'll lay 4 down. And then the best icons I'll leave. I'll erase the rest at the end because you can get too many icons. And so I like to start fresh every year. I start with a blank screen so I don't have preconceived notions. I need to go out and find stuff. And so as we're cruising through here, you can see it kind of turns sandy. So, you know, you wave in and out of the spot to look for it. There's more rocks and it seemed like better this way. So it tells me the rock pile is laying this direction. This was all pushed together by glaciers. So glaciers actually push these up, and so you get rock strings, we call them up here. And you can do this with weeds, look for in and outs of the weeds, but typically I'm looking for rocks this time of year and they end right there. That tells me it's gonna be really good. So we hit some rocks, not literally, but we found some rocks over here and they kind of got thinner, and then a nice cluster happened and another cluster. So we're gonna fish this end of the rocks because it has an abrupt ending. So it's going to hold, all the fish are going to be kind of pushed right there. Let's go back and hit it.
Now the best part about fishing with Bro is the fact that it seems like every single time that I went out with him, we've absolutely smashed fish. And this particular trip was no exception. And he actually got some bonus points as well because we didn't have to dangle live bait in front of the walleye's face to entice a finesse strike. We ended up catching them, fishing pretty aggressively, and that's a lot of fun.
Oh, right. This is awesome. I love catching nice walleyes like that, but this time of year we can catch them on plastics. Let me take this out so I can show it to you. That's a impulse smelt minnow on a deep V head. And the idea with the deep V head is it thins down at the bottom so it flips around, more action. And that smelt minnow is really soft, so it has a lot of action and really bright colored. And it triggers big fish like this. Look at that nice fish. I gotta let that one go. That's way too big to eat. There we go. Awesome. I love pitching them out. And this is what I do typically is I'll just take it and pitch it out. Let it hit the bottom and then a sweep. Like you're snap jigging, sweep. And then pause just for a second. The pause is the reset button which allows the fish to catch it. Walleyes are fast, but they're not super fast. So you want to hop it, but keep it in viewing for them, because if you jerk it too far, they can't see it. In some lakes, in clear water they'll follow it, but and just keep ripping it. And when you come back to jig, if the fish is there, you set the hook. So we'll do that again. So just take it, pitch it out, and I like to use, you know, 10 feet of water or less. 1/8 ounce is perfect, and it's got a little barb on the hook to hold the plastics on, but 1/4 ounce is awesome for all different depths because 1/4 ounce in shallow drops fast and creates bites. So find a good set of rocks or weeds, a weed line, sandbars, humps, and pitch this out to them. And the fish don't have hands, so when they see something they like, they have to grab it with their teeth. And when they're grabbing this to look at it, we set the hook. And triggering walleyes, there we go, all right, is a lot of fun. Instinctive reactive strikes, and you get really killer strikes. All right, here he comes. Ah, small one, I'll just swing that one in, but you could see the power of plastics. Summer bite, great fishing, and that's a smaller one. A little bit bigger net, I'll eat it. We'll let that one go.
Now right now we are very solidly in the late summer period with fall, in theory, just around the corner. Of course, I think all bets are off this year with the crazy summer that we've had. But regardless, right now is a time of transition for walleyes. And here's a quick look at how Bro likes to approach this time of year.
Coming off of this summer was a really warm summer. And where I'm at in northern Minnesota, we had temperatures in the 90s quite consistently, 80s and 90s. And the water temperature was in the 70s from June on. And typically when the water hits the 70s, we have a short window, maybe 3 weeks some years. This year it's been June, July, and into August. So I'm thinking that this is an extended period of warm water, and the fish were stressed. But now we've had cooler nights and we've had some wind, so it's really cooled the lakes down. They were close to 80 degrees, somewhere in the middle 80s, which is not typical for a northern climate. And so with wind and a little cooling off at night, we're in the low 70s. The fish are magnetized to rocks and surviving weeds. Now some lakes don't have weeds anymore because of invasives. They still have weeds, but they don't have cabbage. They have ribbon grass and cara beds all over the place. And fish are going to use whatever they have. Large rock structures are really good for fishing, and this is a time of year where you can kind of fish whatever your strong suits are. If you like jigging, you can go out and jig plastics, like an impulse plastics on a deep V head. If you like slip bobber fishing, this is a great time of year to slip bobber fish. Rigging's working great. Some lakes, if you can find leeches, they work really good. Crawlers, big minnows start coming into play. And then there's people who just love dragging spinners. Spinners are fun. You know, butterfly blades, Northland butterfly blades are nice because they consistently spin. They work all the time, slow or fast. And bottom bouncer in a spinner, or a split shot, or a bullet sinker in a butterfly blade works great. It's a crawler harness, or you could use a leech or a minnow, but this is the time of year you can do whatever you want. But I go for the reaction bite, like plastics, but I do like slip bobbers. We've been mixing it up today, just trying a bunch of different stuff, and some of the fish are just crushing the plastics. Brighter the better. Even clear bodies of water have a little bit of murk to them and a little bit of stain, because it's a lot of wind action, sand kicking up, and then algae bloom. This is the last big hurrah of summer, and then it slowly cools down, and then we have the fall bite coming up. Great time of year to get out. Don't wait for fall. Get out now.
Now, a really popular topic, everybody wants to know, what color are you using? And honestly, color is not the most important factor when it comes to catching walleyes, but it does play a part to some degree. So here's how Bro likes to handle the color equation and some of his go-to options when he's pitching plastics for walleyes.
In the summertime, color is very important depending on what body of water you're on. You can see it's a bright day today, and bright day, bright colors is the scenario that everybody always talks about, but I like contrasting colors. Whenever I'm out, if I'm guiding, shooting a show like this, or in a tournament, contrasting colors pull out a lot of fish. So if I'm using like the white impulse, I might want to use a sunrise deep V head. You can see how bright that is. And the head is a different color than the body, but it really contrasts nicely. Perch patterns are nice. Shiner patterns. That's got black and it's got silver with a white belly. Works really good. And then of course, green to white. Looks just like an emerald shiner with a little pepper on there. The cool thing with plastics is they last a long time. But really good luck with these. And so summertime, bright colors. And then lakes like Lake of the Woods, Red Lake, dark stained lakes, Pepin with darker stain, you know, bright colors, you know, again, real bright head. Try a contrasting color. Electric Chicken, I don't have it right here, but it's a great color. It's got pink and it's got all the other colors in it. Paddle tails work great. I've had a little better luck with a fork tail on some bodies of water. Are paddle tail lakes. So every lake's got its own personality. So bring fork tails and paddle tails. Paddle tails, you just pull it and then it paddles as it's going down. Fork tails are more of a rip and let it sink, and then they just puff it off the bottom when it hits the sand. So some key things to remember is mess around with colors, and if it looks very, very gaudy and ugly, the fish are probably going to eat it. If it doesn't look like anything in the lake, they just want to kill it to get it out of the lake. That's what I found. So definitely mess around with plastics and different colored jig heads. And here's an RZ jig, I'll bring it over. Another color, a deep V feather jig that's been working really well. You can see how bright it is, but it's still contrasting. It has kind of a perch pattern to it, and makes a big difference with that big eye and that definitely neck down bottom, so it tips side to side.
Now another topic that's quite a bit more important than color is the weight of the jig that you're using. So here's how Bro likes to strategically use different weights in different situations when he's fishing for walleyes.
If you're fishing in really shallow water and you want to use plastics, you can get by with an 1/8 ounce or even a 1/16 ounce to keep out of the snags. You know, if you're fishing a rocky area, you don't want to feed all your jigs to the rocks. Some really cool colors, and going to a 1/4 ounce, even in 10 feet of water, the jig's going to fall really fast, and that little banging on the sand really turns some heads on the fish. So I'll show you a 1/4 ounce here. So there's a 1/4 ounce, and that's really going to zip through the water column. 1/8 ounce is nice, but the 1/4 ounce you get a little bigger hook, so you get farther back on the plastic. Perch patterns are always a good bet when you're out there fishing, and so, you know, just remember, and then you can't go wrong with 1/8 and 1/4. Just load up on 1/8 and 1/4, and you know you're set. If you're going to fish over 10 feet, if you're fishing in 20 feet of water, you want to get down there in reasonable time. You want to use 3/8 ounce, and I have some of those in here also. Here's a 3/8. If you're pounding the bottom in 20 feet of water, that's going to get you down there. So you want fast fall this time of year because you're creating a strike. But if you're going to be jigging with a minnow or live bait, as light as possible because you want it to loft, to float. And the same with plastics. If it's a tough bite, if you have low pressure or extreme high pressure, any changes in the atmosphere like that, you definitely want to go lighter and just kind of, you know, just kind of lightly jig it with plastics or live bait over the fish. And if I'm using live bait on a tough bite, small jig head, but you'll see that little wire on there, I'll stick a leech right up into that. I kind of thread it on a little deeper and it doesn't come off. Minnows, that little bit of wire helps, and you can bend it out too if you really want to hold into stuff. But little hook and hook set, and then reel it real easy and slow. If you're using braid, smaller hooks mean you can rip their mouth too. This time of year, it's easy to rip a walleye's mouth right in half. So, you know, pitch stuff like this with live bait. But if you're using plastics, just throw it in there. And you've seen I was using this color here. It's kind of a lemon color, really cool color with glow and orange belly. Awesome stuff. And then if you want to pitch out, just use a small minnow. Tip the deep V hair jig with a small minnow, even like a crappie minnow or a small fathead. And when you're pulling it through the water column, the fish can't get the bait off because the actual hair wraps around the minnow, so they just can't quite get it off there, and you get some killer hits. That's been a good one for me this summer. Looks like a kind of a walleye perch pattern. It's got the walleye head, and then you can't go wrong if you're fishing shallower rocks on Lake of the Woods or Red Lake. Pink and white is just killer, and these work great for crappies also. So some things to think: match the weight with the depth that you're fishing, and you'll be set.
Now there you go, that's kind of like an A to Z on pitching plastics for walleyes during the summertime period. This is really a tactic that a lot of people like to use early in the season when the walleyes are pushed up shallow, but you can't discount it this time of year either, because obviously the fish are starting to move right now, and if you can intercept them on some of these feeding shelves with plastics, that can be a really good ticket to success this time of year. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot more awesome videos coming the rest of the year. And until then, we will see you next time.